what is it called? The graduation ceremony?
Commencement.
Commencement, meaning it's just the beginning. Some people finish their study with a PhD, they feel, now I can rest. But most of the time, yeah, you can ask Dr. Singh, Dr. John.
It's a permanent head damage.
Permanent head damage. Yes. For me, PhD has a different meaning. PhD for me, I often joke, I tell my friends and students, I said, I had my PhD when I was 18. I said, how come? What does that mean? I said, maybe I tell John too, yeah? John, Dr. Phúc, not doctor yet, sorry. Mr. Phúc said PhD is permanent head damage. But I disagree. I said, actually, no. I tell everyone, I had my PhD when I was 18. And they said, really? How come? Because I passed high school with difficulty. PhD, passed high school with difficulty. So, yeah. And what I was trying to share as the opening of this discussion is when you finish a research project, the best project is when you open the case, not closing it. And I said that's why in the Philippines and the US, graduation ceremony is called commencement, because you begin the journey. So this topic is the beginning of my journey both ways. When I finished my study in England, my topic was silence, and I submit my thesis, defend my thesis about silence. But after that, my journey into research on silence began. And I finished my project, actually still going on, but 2014, 4 years ago, completed some research on this project that I want to put together in this presentation and share with you. I want to give it a positive name, silence as a learning mode. Focus on this because we don't have a lot of time to focus on all aspects of silence. Silence as learning, and I was looking into Vietnamese context, but eventually I was inspired to look into other contexts at the same time. These are things we often heard, yeah. Silence is better than talking trash, talking rubbish. Do you agree? Some of us, yeah. Or this is important. People say, and this is related to Hannah's comment, when silence between two people is comfortable, you know you have found true love. If you sit next to someone, no need to talk, and you feel the connection in a deep way, please marry that person if you met him. But if you sit next to two people, that's trouble. Okay, starting point. I go back a bit to my early years when I was a primary school student, how it all started. When I was a child in primary school, year 2 or 3, I was a very noisy boy. I was hyperactive. I was constantly moving and talking. At least that's what my mother told me. I've changed a lot over the years. So I kept jumping, being naughty. I even believed that I could fly. Yeah. You know, when you were a child, the world was different. The world was colorful and unrealistic. Yeah, if you remember. So, can you guess where I was? Can you guess what I was doing? This picture is just symbolic. Yeah, I was going to a pagoda. Yeah, practicing meditation. Because one day one of my school teachers called my mother and he said, "Look, you have to do something about your boy. He's a class clown. He never stops moving, and whenever he's in the class, no one can study with him." Yeah. He had a lot of tricks that he would use. So my mother was almost in tears, and she had a serious meeting with my father.
Still true today.
And they came up with a decision.
You already the picture?
It was not a real picture. I couldn't find my picture back then, so I had to use the internet. But anyway, I allow you to imagine. They decided to send me to a pagoda to practice meditation for the purpose calming my mind and making me behave. Believe it or not, every week they send me for one session meditation, and I survived years of training in meditation. Otherwise, I would be more noisy. Very terrible, yeah. So I grew up connected to Buddhist philosophy. And many people fall back, but I stay among the few. Yeah. Continue to practice hard, and actually changed myself a lot. I became more steady, more well-behaved in the classroom, and my teachers were happy. But think about it, sometimes you go against your true nature, personality. Are you happy? Have you ever had to bend yourself to fit like a chameleon? Have you ever had to be somebody else just to be accepted? Miss Phương?
For sure, in front of my crush.
Right.
In front of her brush.
Her
brush.
Her brush.
The one you want to.
Yes. Exactly. So sometimes we have to take on
As if not being single for a long
to
time.
survive.
Wow. Yeah.
And then I went to university. I grew up and became more quiet. And it was not until I started in my bachelor years in English that I annoyed my teacher for not participating. I became an opposite person. And one day my English teacher, very annoyed, and she said, "Oh, that was another version of me." I was quiet but angry. You know, when you are forced to betray your own self, you're not the same anymore. Yeah. Part of you has died, but the other part continued to rebel. So I cannot talk out loud, but I'm angry inside. That's how I look. Yeah. My teacher in university one day pointed at me and said, "You better open your mouth and participate, otherwise you will never graduate." So again, I started a very painful journey of going back to the person I used to be. From a noisy kid, I became a very quiet person. And from being quiet, I started to build talkativeness again. Imagine how hard it would be for you. So I graduated after trying hard. And my first job was in Bangkok, Thailand. I taught in an institution of language English education at Assumption University in Bangkok, Thailand for 3 years. It was my first job. And it was here that, again, I was confronted by the tension between talk and silence. My students never spoke in the classroom. They were so quiet that I couldn't perform my job. There were reasons for not talking, but I couldn't find out until way later. One of the reasons was students didn't have enough English to say anything. They very poor in communication skill, just know a number of words. And I feel very guilty because I try to teach them by learning Thai. You know, for every word I teach, I have to translate it to Thai for my students to understand. Because if I do explain the meaning of the word in English, they wouldn't get it. So I had to learn Thai to teach English. Yeah. And over the years, I realized that my Thai kept improving, and their English was continued to be hopeless. And I felt I betrayed myself as an educator. I need to teach them English, but I actually learned more Thai from them. So the year I left Thailand, my second job was in the US for 2 years with Cornell University for 2 years. I felt very bad about myself. I spoke Thai fluently, which is still true now, yeah. Anyone Thai in this room? You can test, yeah.
Are you nervous? Are you nervous?
Then I will shut up. Yeah, after teaching them English for 3 years, the English remained the same. My Thai was very sad. I have to admit with embarrassment. So, but the hard part is not about the guilt, but it's about being confused what I should do in education. Being noisy, I was forced to be silent. It took me a long journey. And then from silent took me a long time to become talkative again. And tried to be talkative in the classroom but failed because my students challenged me with their own silence. So when you move from silent to talk to silent, and silent to trying to get them to talk again, why is life so difficult? Why can't we be ourselves? Why are we constantly forced to betray the kind of person we're supposed to be? And that was the first moment I started to think a lot about this issue, silent and talk. I wanted to do research to see how people learn through each medium. And I developed my passion. This is something that keeps me going. And I use this to advise my students every time they come up with a topic for research. That you choose a topic you love rather than a topic people think is important. Maybe important for them, but what matters to you the most is the love for the topic, being passionate. And I realized that my passion is silence. I want to understand. Up to the point when I was a student, 2000, there were not many articles about silence as learning. I read some books in the US written in the 50s, and then I read about silence. I go to university database. Every time you type something related to silence, what comes up is silence as passiveness, passivity. Yeah. Silence has a bad name. You are not talking means you're not cooperating. You're not smart. You are not doing your job as a student. Also, keyword search show you most of the time the silent periods. So silence is part of learning, but is the part that you should escape from, not the part that you should cherish. And I was not satisfied with what I found in the literature. I want to see more, but those two things, silence being passive, and silence as a period that you have to get rid of. Silence was so negative. I decided to look into silence in a more constructive manner. So the first time I had the ability to put together my research proposal was when I enrolled in Leeds Metropolitan University in the northern part in Yorkshire in the UK. And I met very good professors who actually inspired me. And we talked a little bit about this topic, and I started to embark on the topic of trying to understand what happened in silence apart from being shy, passive, and being ignorant or starting to learn. You have to be silent. I want to know more. Is silence in any way useful? Yeah. I was looking around for a place to get data, and I had friends at the University of Social Science Humanities in Ho Chi Minh City in District 1. So with permission, I went to almost 20 different classes observing, and I handpicked people who actually very silent from observing to kind of invite them for interview. Not just one interview, but I followed them for 2 years. Not stalking or anything, but meeting them like once a week, maybe in a healthy environment, and talking to them about how they study. I have to say, okay, this school is laughing. Where are you taking it? So I follow them from one class to another to see how they behave. They are those people who are constantly silent, not like you and me who are sometimes talk and sometimes shut up. They always shut up. Yeah. Very strange. But they open my mind, where they talk about the complexity of their silence. Very interesting. So I keep interviewing them, observing them for 2 years, and spend another 2 years to write about them. One of the major findings was there's a lot of interaction, even when they're not talking. There's interaction with the environment. There are teachers, and teacher is in the center of their silence. They are silent because the teacher doesn't know how to make them otherwise. So there's a lot of things to say about teacher, but then I finished my project and submitted, had the Viva and passed and got the degree. But to be honest, I don't think I deserve the degree because I wasn't happy with my PhD thesis. It was very limited, the finding, not rich enough. There's one set of finding that blame the teacher. And I thought there must be more than just, the teacher is not everything when you learn. There's environment, their peer, there's setting, there's content, materials, the mood, things that people bring with them as social skills into the classroom and family background, even breakfast, thing they eat, last night's sleep, everything. Why do you keep blaming the teacher? So I thought, maybe something wrong with my instrument. I didn't collect a rich pool of data. And I feel guilty. I have my PhD, but I don't think I deserve it. I think if I were my panel, I would ask me to do it again. But they already gave me my degree. Sometimes you quietly tell yourself, people admire you, Dr. John, Dr. Singh, Dr. Dad, they all have their PhD, but these doctors know that we need to learn more, yeah? Anyway, I'm sure. So, next thing I knew was, I got funding from University of Boston, that was the University of Social Sciences Humanity, and I was based at Cornell University in upstate New York. I applied for East West Center, University of Boston, Massachusetts, and I got funding to do this project again. Just there was an opportunity, and I want to repeat this research project. No one give me a degree anymore, but I want to repeat this project to see if I find anything different. And I decided to go to Lê Hồng Phong High School. I wanted to know because everywhere in Vietnam there are students who don't talk. And I talked to the principal of school, who was a lady at the time, it was about year 2000 or 2004, headmaster was a lady. And she didn't like my topic. She said, why you learn about silence? What is it about silence that's so important? But I tried begging, convincing her to let me talk with students. I did a survey, I did questionnaires, and then also interviewing people. And I found out a different set of findings, which point to the direction where students say, we really want to speak, we hate silence, we want to talk. But the system, the culture, the expectation is not there. No one encourages us to talk. If we talk, the teacher will stare at us and peer will frown on us as messing up with the lesson. So, and they explain a lot more. Learning from experience, I did a better job in getting to the finding. So that was the second project I did on a different group. And I realized it's so interesting when you replicate the same research project on a different target group and context as well. You come up with a different set of findings. And I keep thinking, what if I do it in a different country, not Vietnam anymore? So after Cornell, I applied for my job in everywhere, like Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore, Europe. Then I got this job at Monash University. That was the building where I used to teach at Monash University. I came here 2007, 12 years ago. I got into Monash. And this was the first time I was confronted by the silence of Anglo-white Australian students. Some of them, in every class that I taught mainly third year for a while. And in every class, there would always be a few members who are not really talking. And when you go into the literature, you realize people often draw a line between Western and Asian students. They say Asians are born into an academic or education or culture where people are expected to show respect by purely listening. And Western are encouraged to talk, and so they grew up talking. But that was not always true. Everything can be pushed to an extreme level of naming. You name people.
Stereotype.
Yes, stereotyping people. So that was one of the lectures. I finally were able to identify 10 Australian students who almost never talk in my classes, and I continue to interview them. I actually replicate exactly the same design that I did in Le Hong Phong and Social Science College on this group of Australians. And I wrote an article called Australian Silence, Australian Way of Being Silent. I published it in a book called Asia as Method. If you like, I can recommend the book, but the book is not about silence. The book is about different research studies in Asia and my Asia Pacific. Yeah. So I presented this finding at a lot of conferences, but I'd like to share with you just a shortcut of to the finding. Yeah. Now, a number of things they say quite different, distinctive from what I found in Vietnam. They said these are major, most important findings. Someone who is talkative in their mother tongue can be silent in a foreign language. Does it happen to you?
Yes. Yes. Sure.
It's a matter of switching language. Language A, you are talkative. Language B, you are different. Yeah. Have you ever felt like a child when you perform in another language? Remember when we first learned English, we talk very simply. Yeah? We talk like a child. Our sentences were short. Yeah. We talk like a baby, 1 or 2 year old baby, because our language was insufficient. Another thing is they kind of identify a range of factors that actually make them silent. Can be the dynamic of classroom culture, can be peer relationship in the classroom, can be their own personality and even the mood. Maybe when it rains, they talk less because they're sad. Yeah. Maybe the content of classroom discussion, receptivity meaning how well the lecturer received your talk. If you open your mouth and contribute, if the lecturer welcomes you with a smile, more encouragement, next time you will raise your hand again. But if not, you will be discouraged from contribution, depending on the mood, inspiration, and sometimes it has to do with challenge. Some of my students said, I don't talk because the level of challenge is too low. I want to be smart. I want to show that I understand and I can contribute. When you go into the readings related to Confucian philosophy and education, you realize that what people write out there in academia is not the same. People say students who came from Confucian culture, like East Asian, like Japanese, Korean, Chinese, Vietnamese. We are brought up in Confucianism that conditions us to be silent. I think from research, this is a stereotype. When I ask East Asian students all over the world, studying in the US, Canada, Europe, and so on, I ask them, why are you silent? They never said, oh, I'm silent because I'm following the tradition of my ancestors. They never say such thing. They always use the present moment to explain I'm silent because the content teacher, because of the lack of interaction with peers and so on, but they never talk about the past. They never talk about their country's culture and tradition, never. And I realized that books interpret. Maybe they are not aware, maybe it's a software in their system that dictate. But I asked them, I said, are you silent because it's a tradition of your culture? They say, maybe, but I can change. But the teacher doesn't support me. They connect. Say, okay, in my family I was silent, but that doesn't necessarily condition me as a silent person for the rest of my life. I can change. But the reason I don't change because of the present moment where there are things that mess with my system. So they said that. And I go back to Confucius writing and I realize Confucian doesn't always say we should be silent. Sometimes people say silent is golden.
Yeah.
But that's in any culture. You see that center in every culture, not just in China or in Chinese related cultures, Confucius actually encouraged critical thinking, meaningful conversation, and questioning. I think you remember a proverb in Vietnamese, học là hỏi or something like that. That is so important in Confucius philosophy. Say, if you want to learn well, you have to question everything. You have to ask. You cannot just keep silent. But for some reason, scholars around the world keep looking, keep focusing on the silent aspect of Confucius philosophy or teaching, and ignore that Confucius actually encouraged talk. They ignore that part in the writing. Yeah. And I think that's not fair for the field if you want to really understand education. So I had 3 projects with 3 different sets of findings. That means when you replicate the same design and look into different context, you have new meaning. And I thought I would like to expand my research project into different cultures. So my next journey was in Japan, when I went into high schools in Japan and conducted a survey on 150 students about when they silent, what happened, how do they learn through silence. I failed this project because students left that question